the equation E is equal mc squared, in which energy is put equal to mass multiplied with the square of the velocity of light, showed that very small amount of mass may be converted into a very large amount of energy, and vice versa. The mass and energy were in fact equivalent, according to the formula mentioned above. This was demonstrated by Kobras and Walton in 1932 experimentally.
You've got it right here. S4 with E squared in conjunction with Spaced Out Radio.
Alien contact. S4. UFOs. Bigfoot. 9/11. Grays. The Illuminati. Cover-ups. RH negative blood. What are they hiding from
Sorry, your call cannot be completed as dialed.
Now, the men behind the mics, Forest Moon Paranormal's Eric Cooper and the SOR Spacewire's Eric Markham. You can find more at spacedoutradio.com.
Remain seated, please. Permanecer sentados, por favor.
Now, let's travel into the universe. It's S4 with E squared.
All right, good evening, everyone. This is Eric Cooper, Forest Moon Paranormal. I'm waiting on Markham. Markham's not going to make it in tonight. He's our scientist. For those that don't know, he's also the Spaced Out Radio's newswire and scientist on our team, as well as a scientist for Spaced Out Radio. And well, he works usually when we're on the air, so he's busy tonight. He'll try to call in probably later when he can make it. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and take my headphones off because I don't need them. So S4 with E squared does not reflect the views and opinions of Spaced Out Radio. And how you doing tonight, Shar? I see that you're in the chat room. For those that are listening live, you can go to the chat room. If you look at the bar where it says live and you're listening, and you can hit, pause and play and whatnot, you'll see a little chat bubble. If you click that chat bubble, it brings you into our live chat room, and you can ask questions and talk and whatnot. So that's that. I've got my coffee. I've got my cigarettes. Here's Steve-O. How you doing, Steve? Always good to see our regulars coming here and tripping. All right. How's everyone doing tonight? So there's a lot going on. Tonight we're talking fairies. And before I even get to fairies, Christopher, if he comes into the chat room tonight, brought up some very interesting discussions. And I see Markham's on, but I'm not sure if he's going to be able to be in tonight. The interesting thing he brought in, and how you doing, Andy? And Don. So now we've got the liberals, and I don't like any of the sides. I don't trust any of them. Just bottom line. That's why I voted for Jill Stein. And tonight we're going to talk politics for a second. Not real long, but for a second. But it's funny. I try to stay out of politics on Facebook as best I can, and it's just I see a lot of the Trump voters that they're kicking themselves now. They're asking, "What did I do? Really? What did I do? Why did I vote for him?" And I'm just, hey, you got suckered, because look at him now. Now he's you hear more and more about his Twitter feeds, and now he's actually getting racist with some of his with some of the tweets he's doing. And anyway, so Christopher and I were chatting earlier tonight, and it's interesting. And now you got the liberals that are actually pushing survival, and it's always been the Republicans, or the far right, that encourage survival skills and prepping, not so much the liberal side. Now also the liberals, but of course they're going to, they're all about right now. They're all about fear mongering. That's what it boils down to. And what do? You just stay prepared. And I've got a long ways to go. I've always been, I hate the word prepper. I've always been more of a homesteader. And we have enough seeds left over from last year that the garden's going to be good. We're going to work on getting some more chicks so we have more eggs. And I think this year we're probably going to work on orchard. We found out we had a pear tree last year. And it was the first time that pear tree's ever actually put out peaches, and and they got stolen. We're at the end of a dirt road, and we actually all of our peaches got stolen before we could harvest them. But I think this year we're going to be working on more orchard, because we're good on the garden. We've got all the seeds we need for the garden. Maybe a crop here and a crop there. But I mean, I've got corn, I've got everything I need. So, but what's going to happen? Anyone got an idea what's going to happen? Because I got no idea. We're about to get Trump in office here in a week? Not even 4 days. And Trump came out and was tweeting about how awful Obama was. Well, you can say what you want about Obama, but look what he got handed when he came into office. And for as awful as he was, he made it 2 terms. So he wasn't that awful, was he? So anyway, you got Trump sitting there tweeting, Trump was so awful that there's never going to be another black president ever. Oh, and you didn't think he was racist? Huh? Really? Well, I think he just proved it. Because you got all the Trump supporters going, he's not racist. When's he ever said a racist thing? Well, he just did. So, there you go. But anyway, enough about politics. Basically, in a nutshell, the reason I brought that up was because survival and prepping is probably the smartest thing you can do. We're going to go over so I had my first meeting of the year with Forest Moon Paranormal. And I'm going to put this out there real quick. If you haven't found Forest Moon Paranormal yet, go on Facebook, punch in Forest Moon Paranormal, look for the group. Don't go to the page. The page is cool, but look for the group, because that's where all of our stuff is. That's where all the files. And in there you're going to find, I tried to, it's not working again. I'm trying to put the Homesteader group into the chat room, but it's not going. If you go in the Forest Moon Paranormal group, you'll find the Homesteader link. Go in there, I'll approve you into the group. And main reason I'm putting people in there is that you go to my library, and there in the file section, you'll have everything you can even think of in that library. It makes the paranormal library look small. And it's got every military regulation you can think of, or field manual you can think of as far as survival goes. and then some. So we're doing fairies. Basically, the way S4 works, and we will cover our topic for as many episodes as it takes. So this is basically a working calendar that I've got, and we go until we're done as far as episodes go, and then we go off to the next topic. So we're going to do, tentatively, for the next 3 shows, fairy races. And basically I'm going to break it down to I'm reading the chat room. Sorry, I'm trying not to be distracted here, but I'm reading the chat room while I'm talking. And I just can't do that. I don't have that. Yeah. So we're doing fairy races. We just did alien races for the last 3 shows. And then we're going to tie them together. Once we're done with all the fairy races, do fairies wear boots? Some of them do. Not Tinkerbell, but some of them do. But basically, we're going to cover all the fairy races, and then we're going to kind of put them side by side with aliens and look through, culture and society and compare them. Because you're going to find that some what they call fairies were actually alien races. I won't say vice versa because it's really not. And then once we're done with that, we're going to kind of do a comparison. And Ron, you're funny. But we're going to do a comparison on signs and symptomology as far as if you're in a paranormal investigation and you've got certain signs here that look like spirit, but they're actually fairy, and, vice versa. And then some of them, well, you never know. Might be alien abduction because there's a lot of signs that are similar, like the sparkly lights, and well, we'll get there. But so that's the plan. And tentatively, okay, so February 5th, we're tying it all together. And so if you're local here to Concrete or in Skagit County, or if you're just willing to travel for a night, we do paranormal discussion every second Saturday of the month at 6 p.m. at the Lone Star Restaurant in Concrete, Washington. So that's what we do. We're also starting up our quick reactionary team, which I'll get there. We'll get to that here in a minute. But February 12th, we're talking hollow Earth theories, and that's covering the North and South Poles. That's covering Death Valley. There's legends and stories from Native Americans that there were aliens that lived in the mountains around Death Valley. You got Mount Shasta, you got Mount Rainier, you got pretty much, if you look at the hollow Earth theories, both poles are supposed to be hollow, as well as a lot of volcanoes that are dead. Dead volcanoes make for... I got to figure out technology tripping. I do. If I want to escalate S4, I got to figure out how to escalate it as far as getting out there farther. So February 19th, we're doing paranormal missing people. And we're not talking the David Paulide's theories. They're out there. They're great. But we're going beyond David Paulide's because I think there's a lot more going on than what his theories talk about. I think you've got thousands of people that are missing in national forests, and every year, globally, not just nationwide, but globally, I think there's a plethora of things that go on that make people disappear from our national forests. Be it a portal, be it aliens, be it Bigfoot, be it government. I think there's a whole lot of stuff going on that we can look at. So we're going to look at that February 19th. My bad. So February 26th, we're talking Earth changes, HARP, and geoengineering. And so March 5th is going to be a hot topic night. We're talking, are gods really aliens, and where did religion come from? And yes, if you listen to Spaced Out Radio, this was picked out. I actually put this all on the calendar back in January before Dave had that religious guy on. But March 12th, we're talking ancient alien theories 1 and 2. We are talking for about 2 episodes, possibly even more than that, about the ancient alien theories that stem from Giorgio Tsoukalos. And we'll talk Zechariah Sitchin, we'll talk Eric von Daniken, we'll talk Jacques Vallée, and we'll kind of put them all together. Now, March 26th, I know my Aussie guys are excited because we're talking Pine Gap, Australia versus Area 51. And we're going to put them side by side and look at the similarities of them. And we're going to go beyond that. We're actually going to talk Dugway Proving Grounds. We're going to talk Fort Lewis, Dulce, New Mexico, Roswell, New Mexico, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. Let's look at all of them, all the hot spots, and look at the comparisons. So April 9th, we're talking... No, April 2nd, we're talking NWO, government elite, Bilderbergs, corrupt corporations. We already hit that, I know, last year, but we're going to hit it again because a lot changes. April 8th, we're to hit Imperial discussion at the Lone Star. Okay, April 9th, we're talking Montauk Project. April 16th, we're talking the alphabet soup agencies and the secret government. April 23rd, presidential secrets and who saw what. You got Jimmy Carter, you got Ronald Reagan. You got a whole lot of presidents that came out and actually talked about what they've seen, and then they're kind of shut up. April 30th, we're talking Native American lore and the paranormal. We'll look at, we'll actually probably pull Tyler Allen in and have him talk about some of the tribal legends he's heard. And May 7th, I'm kind of looking forward to. It's what do you do if there's an alien invasion? Besides kiss your ass goodbye and run. Yeah, we're going to talk survival. We're going to talk homesteading. We're going to talk a lot of stuff as far as realistically. Are you going to run? Are you going to bunker down? Or are you going to wait it out and see what happens? So QRT. QRT is basically, y'all know Markham and I are veterans, and we basically take our discussions a lot on a military aspect. QRT, for those that don't know about Forest Moon Paranormal, we are a crisis team. We take everything as a crisis. We don't go looking for paranormal evidence because, most of the people in our team have lived paranormal most of our lives, and whether it's Bigfoot, alien abduction, UFOs, ghost spirits, entities, you name it. We've lived it. And as a veteran who's been in combat, you don't look at the paranormal the same. You don't run. You just go, really? You think you're scary? Yeah, okay, whatever. Have a nice day. And that's how we take it. So, hold on. Let me try Markham again. You might be getting ready. It just kind of popped up. So, yeah, cricket bats, pointy sticks, all of them. For those that are lost, let's see, I'm trying to call Markham here. So QRT basically is a quick reactionary force for military. Basically, if you're in combat and you're in an infantry unit, you're up in the front lines and you get overrun, the QRF is what they call it in the Army. It's a quick reactionary force. They're the ones that go in, take out the enemy, and bring the soldiers home. So basically, on that format with the paranormal, what the QRT is going to be doing, if I get a phone call from a client, they are being attacked right now by a spirit, I will activate the phone roster and we will roll. It's geared for if you're being attacked by a spirit now. It's geared for if you see a UFO right now, and it's all geared for local people, obviously. So, if you're being attacked by Bigfoot or a cryptid, which does not happen in this part of the world, it happens more in the South. But I put it in there, and that's what it's going to be about. Training for this is going to cover paranormal ethics, SOP, and protocols. the dangers of the paranormal and safety, psychic protection, grounding and shielding, herbs, stones, what's used in defense and offense, paranormal tools, paranormal conspiracy and theories, wilderness survival, land nav, and first aid. Now that's actually being taught by a Special Forces First Sergeant buddy of mine who's in the QRT. And yeah, Milo, I'm talking Southern United States. A lot of the stories about Bigfoot, Sasquatch, whichever they want to call them, you'll hear a lot more aggressive stories that happen in the South, Southern United States, that is, and Pacific Northwest. He's more docile. Seems to be more hidden. Sticks to himself. That kind of thing. Anyway, QRT. We're talking wilderness survival, land nav, and first aid, weapons, weaknesses of spirits, aliens, and everything else under the sun. Equipment, and then there's going to be a test. So, that's the QRT. Now, if it comes down to it, and this is, because it's kind of in infant stages right now. Training is going to start probably about the end of February, early part of March. We had our first meeting for it yesterday, and that was kind of a meet and greet. So, let's see here. Once we get this going, as far as the QRT goes, then we'll kind of spread it out a little. And basically, for the locals that don't want to be in the QRT, the paranormal side, but they want the training, by all means, you can jump into the training. You just won't be on the team. That's fine. Because especially with the survival. And I see Christopher's not here yet. He might be here. He may not. But we were talking about, it's kind of, he was kind of spooked out that the liberals were bringing up prepping. That's more of a Republican thing, generally speaking. So, Paracon. Paracon is September 23rd, 2017. It is absolutely free to the public. We are, if you want a Fourth Moon Paranormal t-shirt, go in the group and you'll find the link to it. And that is actually one of our fundraisers for Paracon. Because by doing fundraisers, we keep it absolutely free to the public. My speakers are awesome. My speakers, they don't charge me for getting them to the Paracon. I only have to pay for their lodging. I can swing that one, especially with fundraising. So we've got a GoFundMe account set up in the group, and we're selling t-shirts only for the month of January. So get your t-shirt while you can. Represent Fourth Moon Paranormal. It's tentatively at the Concrete Airport. We are looking for volunteers for security, for setup, for parking. If you have a business you want to be seen as a sponsor of the event, then I think we're charging $30 for an ad. We're also looking for vendors if you want to vend anything paranormal related, baking. If you bake cupcakes, that kind of thing, $30 for a table. And once we get locked in, we are opening up VIP roundtable tickets, $30 for tickets, and only for 25 people, unless we get a bigger venue. Then we'll open it up to 30 people. So right now the speakers we have are Dave Scott. You all know him. Christina George, paranormal, she's from, oh God, I'm having a brain cramp here. Paranormal Connections, she's in California, she's coming up. We have Todd Allen standing there talking Bigfoot. We have Ronald Murphy. He's possibly coming and talking. You all know Ronald Murphy, the crypto guru. He might be at the Paracon talking fairies. I'm talking alien abduction and encounters. Markham's talking science and the paranormal. We have SJ and Russ Wells from Fog Paranormal. They're talking ghostology and spirits. Actually, they're probably going to talk about medium, being a medium in the paranormal. And I've got Mike Morin from Chronicles of the Unknown talking investigative techniques in the paranormal. The QRT is going to be there with the truck static display. You know what, Trippin? That's a good question. I got to get with SJ. I know they made a video, and I'd love to get that and put it up. Whether we put it up on YouTube or in SOAR. We need to, I need to track that. I'll talk to SJ probably tonight or tomorrow. Oh yeah, then we got Chronicles of the Unknown's going to be there. And next year, 2018, we're depending on how this year goes. Last year was the first year we've done this, a Paracon. And it was awesome. It was awesome for a first event. It's going to get even bigger this year. I know it will. And we'll probably do a 2-day event next year. And next year, if we get to a 2-day event, we'll actually do a paranormal investigation live. And we'll do a drawing because you can't have 100 people on an investigation. That just gets crazy. So we'll have a free drawing. And again, as I said, this is a free event. I don't believe in charging $100, $200 for damn tickets. No, Don. There's never a fee. We never charge. The only thing we charge for is if you're a vendor and you want a vending space, and for VIP tickets. It is a free event. And on top of being a free event, we also try to work with hotels to get Paracon discounts, that kind of thing. But no, everything Forest Moon Paranormal tries to do is free. Well, all of our investigations obviously are free. And we raise money through either t-shirt sales, if you go get a Forest Moon Paranormal t-shirt, or if you donate to the GoFundMe. That's how we can pay for these things. Otherwise, it comes out of my pocket, and we make it work. So, we're going to talk fairies now. I think I'm done babbling here. I'm looking at my notes here, because, again, we just had a meeting last night. So, let's talk fairies. What exactly are fairies? Okay, hold on. I got to move this over. VIP tickets, where do they get you? Basically, for last year and for this year, all the VIP ticket is, so you come into the Paracon, you listen to the lectures, that's all free, obviously. And then, of course, you have, the vendors. Now, the perks that the VIP gets you into a room with all the speakers, where we do a round table. And the round table is set up just like the Spaced Out Radio round table, where I sit there and I fire off blind questions to the speakers. And I mean, if $30 ain't worth that, they get to sit there and get autographs from the speakers, that kind of thing, and just kind of rub elbows with them, which a lot of people just think that's worth it. So we actually sold out last year. We sold all 25 tickets at $25. And I think I gave out discounts, and we had got a couple tickets in a drawing and whatnot. Gotta drink my coffee here. So fairies. Fairies were first found around 1300 AD. Fairy refers to enchantment and magic. It derives from Old French, faerie, F-A-E-R-I-E, as the land of fairies, meeting of fairies, enchantment, or magic. It may also be derived from fae. Now, we've been discussing this, and Andy, we're always going to have it. I mean, you might miss it, but, it might sound boring, but generally speaking, I'm probably going to keep the same speakers every year. Why? To me, it doesn't get boring, because to me, all right, outstanding. We're about to get Markham in here. To me, though, every year is different. Things change. Things, so even if you have the same speaker every year, and they might even still, talk the same topic, every year is different. So you're not going to hear any echo tonight because I actually have headphones in. How you doing, Markham?
Phew, they're working my fat ass tonight.
I guess. Okay, I'm having a hard time hearing you. Is everyone hearing okay?
I hear you fine. I might just have to set up a little closer.
Okay. Yeah, it might be my damn headphones too. So we kind of got caught up Let's go back and talk real quick, though. So, Markham, Christopher and I were chatting earlier, and I kind of pushed out some survival, a link to my survival group. But Christopher is scared, and that all of a sudden now we've got the liberals talking about prepping. What do you think about that?
Oh, I think if the election had gone the other way, you'd have heard the conservatives doing the same thing. I just think it's a matter of. I just think it's kind of like throwing a tantrum.
And that's kind of what I told him. Okay, hold on. There we go.
Well, the media is trying to whip everybody into damn frenzy too. So, gloom and doom and dogs sleeping with cats and rain falling upward. So, it'll calm down eventually.
Here's my take on it too, though. You know what? They got what all these people throwing a tantrum, and if I offend you, I'm sorry, but this is just my view. I've got no sympathy, none. You got what you asked for, and here's why I say. Here's why I feel that way. If they didn't jump up and down and throw a fit and scream and boycott when Bernie was knocked out of the running because, corruption. There you go. But they're sitting here throwing a tizzy and a fit right now. And why? Trump won. They got what they wanted. And all these, Hillary had higher numbers. No, I don't think she did. Yeah, I really don't. You know what? Y'all got what you wanted. You got Trump. And now you're seeing a lot of people backtracking saying, oh, shit, I voted for Trump. What did I do? Well, you just voted in a dumbass. And well, there you go. You got what you wanted, and we're all going to pay the price. That's what it boils down to. Now, stop crying. Stop your whining. I voted for Jill Stein. I wasn't going to throw my vote into a party that I couldn't feasibly play into. And, did I throw my vote away? Some would say I did. I don't think I did. I wasn't going to throw my vote into a two-party system. Not when I can't honestly play that game, And so here's what you do. You get your garden seeds ready. You start getting get some chickens. Start doing what you can to save your money. Because when it all boils down to, some say the country's going to go bankrupt this year. Is it? I don't know. Just be ready. Some say the government's going to collapse. There's going to be anarchy. Is it? I don't know. Just be ready for it. But don't sit and fret and worry about it. That's where the fear-mongering comes from. Why worry about something you can't control? And do you really think running out and boycotting and screaming and jumping up and down is going to affect anything? Not really. It's not. Sure, it's your constitutional right. Trippin's ready for fairies. Okay. We'll get to fairies. Let's do fairies. So
don't forget, fairies wear boots.
Exactly. So a fairy, as a supernatural creature, is from the late 14th century, perhaps through intermediate forms such as fairy knight, supernatural, or legendary knight. Early 14th century, the diminutive winged beings, so-called in children's stories, seen to date from the early 17th century. Now, we just, I'm sorry, Tripp, and I had to get Markham caught up. So, you've got different spellings of fairy. And basically they're all the same. With little bit winged beings. They're basically guardians. Depends how you look at it. Fairy, and we got into this discussion here a couple days ago, because the Astral team in Forest Moon is doing a fairy study as well. So, faerie is one type of fae. Fae is kind of like the umbrella term of everything in the fairy realm, if that makes sense. You still with me, Markham?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
listening.
I can barely hear you. I don't know why. I think it has to do with my headphones. No, fairies are not malevolent. Some of them are. They're just like spirits. You got benevolent fairies, you got malevolent fairies. Some of them are here to help the earth, and if the humans get in the way of that, then okay, they become malevolent. Then you got the neutral ones. Then you got the ones that are tricksters. Are they malevolent? Not really. They're just taking your shiny stuff and hiding it. They're taking your keys and hiding them. They're taking your change and hiding them. Elementals. Good question, Ron. Elementals are a part of the fairy realm. Now, that's where you... fairies are essentially guardians of... Some of them are guardians of the earth. Some of them are guardians of the water. They're not guardians of the elements per se, whereas the elementals are guardians of those elementals. And if you've seen the pictures I've taken of the elements as they're leaving our circle in Iraq, you'll see they do show themselves. Only when they want to. And you don't ever, and this kills me, but you don't ever conjure, and you don't ever demand, or you'll just piss them off. Bottom line, if you're respectful to them, they'll work with you. Got anything to add, Markham?
Well, what I noticed when I was studying up for this is if you take and change the cultural filters a little bit, the fae, fairies, and the jinn seem to be very similar, almost the same. The activity, the tricksterism, they can be good or bad. It's just whether you're seeing it through European eyes or Asian eyes, whether you call them jinn or you call them fairies.
Right.
I mean,
right.
If you look at, you can look at an ifrit in the Muslim tradition, and that would be like a pixie, pretty much like a pixie in the British tradition. So it's like both races are describing the same creatures, just using different names and different cultural filters.
I kind of tend to lean more towards the Muslim aspect because that is the main culture that jinn come from, though.
Right.
In that jinn are supposed to be worse than demons. And, I mean, you get what you conjure. And that's basically the main way you get a jinn is if you conjure them. And, unlike demons, demons can be conjured or demons will, kind of latch onto you. But, again, and I just got into this morning with Fourth Moon Paranormal and that we don't talk demons because I really don't. Demons are very rare. And anytime you get a case where someone's been attacked, scratched, pushed, that's generally a pissed off spirit or an aggressive spirit. Honestly, yeah, they are a very powerful entity. But jinns, that is. But I'm trying to think of even how to explain it, but you can talk to any demonologist that's actually a real demonologist that's been in the field for 40 years, and they might have encountered a true demon activity once or twice in 40 years. Most of the time, in fact, demons don't even attack. Demons manipulate. They're the ones that make you depressed. They make you kill yourself. That's how they attack. They don't get physical. That's usually a pissed off spirit or a malevolent entity, which is different than a demon. There's a whole lot of entity types out there. You got doppelgangers. You've got skinwalkers. These are what we call entities. They have a name, but until you figure out what kind of entity it is, it's just a malevolent entity. So, okay, sprites. I'm trying to remember. Now, being pagan, we see fairies way differently than because pagans, witches, even druids work with fairies. Some do, some don't. But that's part of our belief system. So you sit there, you kind of pique my interest when you bring up fairies because, yeah, we work with them. So our definition of a certain fairy type, they can do either, Milo. A djinn can possess or attach. They can do either. A lot of the attachments, though, like from some of the cases I've seen involving jinn, come from soldiers that came back from Iraq and brought an Iraqi artifact with them, for example. That's how they got a jinn. And yeah, thought form or your belief in them brings them power. So they'll never die as long as people believe there's jinn. That's another way of looking at it. Now, so the earliest depictions of fairies was reportedly found in Etruscan art around 600 BC, where paintings display small human-formed beings with wings. The Etruscans called these beings Lhasa. Some have suggested that fairies don't appear in Celtic lands until after the rise of Christianity, but earlier Celtic lore doesn't support this approach and suggests that fairies were first described around 400 BC, as the Celts were exposed to the practices of the Etruscans. Others suggest that they can be first found during the Stone Age period, 9000 to 8000 BC, in Old Europe's Cult of the Dead. The Anglo-Saxon chronicles, 880, were writings that described, among other things, charms against elf-shot. The link between fairies and the dead has been a long association. Some suggest fairies were originally the spirits of the deceased, thus their association with the Cult of the Dead in Old Europe. Who rules the jinn? That's a good question. Who rules any entity? I mean, unless you're going to religion, which I don't go to religion. That brings up a whole nother topic. So hold on. The link between fairies and the dead has been a long association. Some suggest fairies were originally the spirits of the deceased, as I said, and the Etruscan art depicts fairies in the company of a god or goddess. That kind of brings on the aspect of guardian. They can also be found in this context as part of the lair of the Romans. A lair, or lar, in early Roman religions were guardians of an area, place, or home. Now, if you get into brownies are usually seen as... brownies are cool. Brownies can be seen as caretakers. If you give them an offering, not even an offering, a gift of cakes and ale, cakes and milk with honey, they'll take care of your home. They'll take care of your kids. They'll protect your home until you piss them off. And then they'll wreak havoc in your home. And, you know, I'm not sure if you look at any of the... Oh, let's change the topic real quick. Did you get your email from... God damn it. You get an email from Markham? You still there?
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm changing the topic real quick. Just real quick. Because I can't wait to... Peter Robbins. You get an email from him yet? He said he shot you an email.
Yes, I did.
Okay, good.
Yes, I did. I replied to him. So when I get home, have a chance to look at the schedule. We were supposed to go to the scheduled night, but the way my work's night has been, I haven't been able to do it. So I'll have to look into it after I get home.
Okay, because he should be
tonight before the main show.
And he should be locked in for...
I did respond. I didn't want him to think I was...
Oh, no, hell no. We want him for a speaker. Folks, on Spaced Out Radio, yeah. Peter Robbins is going to be a guest here in March, I believe it is, right? And
yeah, I'm going to try to schedule him for March.
Peter Robbins, for those that aren't familiar with him, is a UFO movie director. He's big on Rendlesham, for those who are familiar with the Rendlesham UFO incident. And he just made the new movie last year with Travis Walton. He's got his own UFO encounters in which his sister was abducted. So, I mean, that's Peter Robbins in a nutshell, and he's going to be an awesome guest. Been a good friend of mine for about a year now. Okay, I know, we'll keep getting sidetracked. Back to the fairies. So, basically, to sum it up, generally fairies are highly connected to nature. They take care of the natural world, or what some might call the elemental world. Elements are specific to their particular element. You got fire elements, earth elements, water elements, air elements, and spirit elements. So that's where the elementals and the fairies are different. Fairies you'll see in the woods, and in plants, in flowers, things like that. You know, and it's a cartoon, but if you have kids, encourage them to watch Tinkerbell, the whole series. Just like in adult movies, a lot of the kids' cartoons involving, you know, the fairy world and whatnot, they're based on a lot of knowledge. Albeit they don't look like Tinkerbell. But yes, they bring the spring in. They help the nature wake up from winter. They work through the summer to help nature grow, and into the fall to direct nature through its transition into winter. So Milo's got an interesting question about returning soldiers have a high incidence of negative attachments. To be honest with you, no. Not that I've encountered. I've only met 2. None from my unit. Now, I ran pagan groups in Iraq. We had over 100 soldiers, airmen, and civilians that were in our group in Iraq. I ran Desert Moon in Balad, Iraq, 04 to 05, and again in Talafar, 05 to 06. So, no. Now, something to look at are attachments what cause PTSD. If you want to look at patterns, I don't see it. Now, maybe attachments are causing suicide? You never know. That would be something, that would be a hard one to prove, though. So in winter, fairies bring the snows. They watch over the natural world while it sleeps. In legends, the fairies are in charge of the elemental seasons, helping the world transition from one section of the divine circle to the next. Other legends have the fairies watching over the vortex elements of nature. These elementals bring earth, air, fire, and water. They use these elements to support the natural courses of nature as it moves around the divine circle of change, birth, life, death, and spirit. So in general, fairies live in fairyland. Which fairyland, if you hear about that veil of the spirit world, kind of the same thing. So as pagans, I honor Midsummer. Midsummer is June 18th, generally speaking. June 18th is also when, again, the veil is thin between the fairy worlds. So there is actually a fairy, it's more or less a fairy holiday. For pagans, that is. I'm just going to scroll right down here to we're not going to go. We'll go into working with fairies another day. I want to go straight into fairy races, to be honest with you.
Well, I was surprised to find out that the banshee is actually considered one of the fairy folk.
Oh yeah, it's on my list.
I always thought that was a different kind of negative energy, or kind of like a hellhound, or it was in that a different group. I didn't realize they were actually.
Yeah, but what I found funny was in some of the research I did with about 10 different websites that cover fairies, and most of them pagan, but they actually had Sasquatch in as a fairy, in the fairy aspect, and I don't. No, Sasquatch is not fairy. And then you start a fight. You got the fairy people going, "Oh no, he's a fairy. No, he's not. He's an alien. No, he's not. Really? Oh, do we really have to go there?"
Well, I can kind of see why they would do that, though, because some of the characteristics, the phasing in and out of our reality, being shot and having the bullet not do any damage. There can almost be an argument made for putting Sasquatch in that category.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I would put him there, but I can see why people would.
Well, then you have to kind of stretch it, and then you have to say anything interdimensional could be fairy. Well, it could be, but is it? I don't think so. That would mean aliens being interdimensional. Aliens must be fairies too. I mean, you can stretch all of it. So, are fairy rings in lawn part of their realm? Okay. Fairy rings, and if you don't know what a fairy ring is, a fairy ring, if you look in your lawn and you see a different shade of grass, for example, that makes a circle in your lawn. And I'm not talking about because you just moved a tire out of your lawn or, something like that. If it's just a natural formation. Say again?
I said that's a redneck fairy ring when you move the tire.
Exactly. I can see someone thinking that, like, oh my God, look. No, you just moved the tire. Oh, okay. But no, if you go look in your lawn and you see it's a different. Now, we got fairy rings here. Now, normally, and you get into the argument of, well, that kind of fairy isn't from the United States, it's from Ireland. Oh, yeah, but they can travel. Just like anything else travels, they can still travel. So basically, your fairy ring, if you go stand in the middle of it, you can. They usually don't, but that's usually kind of a doorway that goes into. I'm looking at Ron. Yeah, the fairy ring can be a doorway. Do you need to destroy it? No, they're harmless. They don't take humans. They might not like you, but they ain't gonna take you into their realm. Actually, I can't remember what the exact number is. I think 3 minutes or 5 minutes in fairy land is like 7 years, something like that. There was one story from an Irish tale where a guy stayed in what he thought was an hour. And he came back and like 1,000 years had passed, and they told him, 1,000 years has passed, don't get off your horse. If you get off your horse, you're going to crumble. And he was good for a while. He stayed on his horse, and he was, young. But he forgot, and after an hour or so, he got off his horse, and he crumbled. He was 1,000 years old. So, you can encounter the fairies through meditation. That's one aspect, one way you can encounter them. You can invite them. Be careful what you ask for. So the first fairy we're going to look at is called the Abatwa, said to be the tiniest creature of human form in existence. These little people coexist peacefully with the ants in the anthills of South Africa and live on their foraging from the roots of grasses and other plants. They're very shy and so are elusive. However, they tend to reveal themselves to very young children, wizards, and pregnant women. And if you have anything that fits this, the A's or whatever that we don't hit, mark them, then jump in. Or if you have anything that covers one of the fairies that I'm talking about that you found.
Well, I was looking for one. When Dave mentioned that twiggy-looking thing he saw, there's a specific definition for that kind of fairy. And I'm darned. Oh. Something happened.
What's that?
And I'm darned if I can find it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Ron brings up a good point too. They don't have. It doesn't have to be colored grass that makes a fairy ring. It can be mushrooms. And that is a good point. Fairy rings can be mushrooms, or they can be colored grass. Either or. I think the mushroom rings are a lot cooler. So now we have Achiri, Acheri, according to folk tradition of India. Achiri is the ghost of a little girl, and who comes down at night from her mountain haunts to bring sickness to children in human habitations. A protection against such a molestation would be to wear a bright red thread around your neck. And yeah, Trippin, Dave and I actually talked last Sunday, and he explained that, just the use of headphones keeps the mics from echoing, and that's what fixed the echo. Adamaster is the spirit of the Cape of Storms, Cape of Good Hope, described by the Portuguese poet Luís Vaz de Camões, 1524 to 1580, in the epic of The Seven Lusíads. The spirit supposedly appeared to Vasco da Gama and foretold disaster to all attempting the voyage to India. Now we have Avel, Aeval. Among the Celts of Ireland, Avel was the fairy queen of Munster. She held a midnight court to determine if husbands were satisfying their wives' sexual needs or not, as the women charged. Now, I want to clarify, too, because, so we know the Banshee is part of the fairy, and I've always known that. There's never been an issue. But succubus, incubus, because you get that argument, even with pagans. Succubus and incubus are not in the fairy realm. They are straight-out malevolent entities. Some call them demons. I don't. If you want to get technical too, is it an entity or is it just nighttime dreams? That'd be the question. Okay, Trippin.
Well, that's one of the things that came from is a way to explain nocturnal emissions and keep the peace as far as, not being scourged or anything like that.
Exactly.
Blame it on a nocturnal entity that made it happen.
Yeah, okay, Milo, Eric Markham is on SOAR all the time. You've heard him on the commercials. You've heard him on the show. It's myself, Markham, and Everett make up the Triple E on Third Hour every once in a while. So that you've probably heard. I know you've heard Markham on there a lot more than myself. I'm on there every once in a while for Third Hour, but Markham is on there quite a bit, especially when we're talking science. So, the Avel. Among the Celts of Ireland, Avel was the fairy queen of Munster. We already talked about her. Never mind. I'm sitting here, yeah. So after midnight is when the clock strikes 12. In the mortal world, after midnight is when the Fae's power is at its weakest. It is a time for breaking curses and spells. See midnight. Now you've got Agta, a creature from Philippine folklore. It can be seen by anyone who bends low enough to look backwards through his legs, which is also how the duende can be seen. We'll get to duende later. The Agra is a solitary creature, black in appearance and regarded as beneficial to fishermen. It enjoys smoking cigars. And some of those, some of these points you bring in. So if you want to make an Agta happy, much like Native American spirits, you give them tobacco. That's the gift they like. So if you're a fisherman and you're out in a boat and you want to gift an Agta, I would give him a cigar. So, and I'm going to butcher these names. You know what, Ron? It depends on the fairy you want to talk to or work with. Yeah, listening to tunes after midnight is played. Yeah, and just to dispel this myth, there is no witching hour. Witching hour, with many believe it's after midnight. Nah, I've seen more. Activity is activity. It doesn't really have a time. You can find ghosts any time of the day. But some say that 3 a.m. is actually when more activity for them comes in. I think it depends on where you're at. I think it depends on your home, or your particular location. What happened on your property at 3 a.m. 150 years ago? I don't know, Milo. Cannabis would be a great one. But do you want to give your cannabis to a fairy versus smoking it? As far as powerful, when are they the most powerful, night, day, or seasonal? It depends on the fairy. It depends on what season they work with. All right, now you'd be looking at more of the winter fairies, because your spring and harvest fairies would be dormant. Basically, look at a fairy as the spirit of a plant. So, Ahes, Ahes, are the beautiful and lascivious daughters of Greylon, king of Kuriz. She stole the keys of the sluice gates from her father and presented them to her lover, who left in the waters of the sea. Her father fled the flood on horseback, and Ahes on the crupper behind him, accompanied by Saint Guano, the king's confessor. When the water tried to engulf them, the confessor bade the king to cast off the she-devil who had caused the mischief. At these words, Ahes fell with a shriek into the waves and disappeared. Her father reached dry land, but Ahes still haunts the seas in the form of a lovely maiden, luring sailors to their doom. And that's actually quite common. You'll find a lot of the sailors actually watch for maidens, like sirens, for example, are known to sing a beautiful lullaby and make the ships crash on the rocks, things like that. Mermaids are actually a part of the fairy realm. And I'm going to break this down because I haven't even done all of my research. This just we could do a probably 2 months just on fairies alone if we really wanted to get technical, and that's with 2 months worth of 3-hour shows. Because if you wanted to get technical, you can go into centaurs, you can go into fauns, you can go into mythical beasts, because they're all part of the fairy realm, or the fae realm. So, what else have you found, Markham?
I just banged my shin on a drawer and knocked out one of my analyzers.
Good. I'll be right back. I've got my coffee right next to the studio here, so I had to grab some more coffee. So I got Akiini, who is an Eskimo of Eskimo folklore. There's a skeleton ghost named Akiini. He was always dancing when he was alive. And his skeleton comes back every so often to do a jig that shakes the ground and turns boats over in the river. He makes his own music, using his arm bone as a drumstick and his shoulder blade as the drum. So yeah, and again, just like we did with the alien, with the alien series, if you want my show notes, I can always send them to you. I've got all of them. They're about 150 pages worth. Barren Pines, New Jersey, doesn't ring a bell, Milo. Is Barren Pines, New Jersey, as a hotspot familiar with you, Markham?
When I think of the Pine Barrens in Jersey, I usually think of Jersey Devil. Pine Barrens are supposed to be, you've got the Jersey Devil, you've got some Sasquatch-like creatures. There's oh God, I can't think of the name of that thing. It's got a Pudge-Wudgies.
Okay,
There's
yeah.
a lot of stuff. There's a lot of stuff that's associated with the Pine Barrens in Jersey. And with all the toxic sludge that's in the rest of Jersey, it probably probably helps make the stuff.
Okay, so Ain, A-I-N-E. She is a fairy goddess, sister to Fenine, daughter to Igagabal, who was the king of the Tuatha De Danann. Now, I'm probably not saying that right, but the Earl of Desmond fell in love with her when he saw her sitting by a Logur. He captured and married her. Their son was Earl Fitzgerald. The Earl of Desmond's taboo was that he could never show that he was surprised by anything that his son did. Unfortunately, he couldn't hold to it when he saw his son jump in and out of a bottle. His son fled in the form of a wild goose, and Ain disappeared into Knock Ain. And now we have 8 Varus. In Lithuanian folk belief, a house spirit which appears in the form of a dragon. It brings its master stole's goods, such as coins, corn, and milk, and 8 Varus can be obtained from the devil in exchange for one's soul, but can also be found or brooded from the eggs of a 7-year-old cock. The spirit, which in the household appears as a cock, must be fed with omelet. So, one legend tells of a young bride who was obliged to grind grain with a hand mill for her mistress. The basket, however, was always full, and her work was never done. Following clever advice she discovered by the light of a sacred candle a cock vomiting the grain, she killed it, much to the distress of the mistress of the house, since it was a source of her wealth. Now we have the Agitar. In Finnish folklore, an evil female spirit of the woods who suckles snakes and produces diseases. She may be of a Lithuanian origin. In southern Estonia, she is called Ai. No, we fixed the echo, Trippin. So now we have Albasti. In Turkish folklore, Anatolia, Turkmenistan, a tormenting feminine night demon or nightmare. Alan. The Alan lives in a house made of gold. She is half human and also seems to have one of the habits of the sloth, for she likes to hang head down from the branch of a tree. She is often mischievous, though not unfriendly to people. Sometimes the Alan appears in folktales as the mother of a human child. And that kind of brings you to the changeling, but we'll get to the changeling later. And that's where you've heard the stories about fairies that... Yeah, Markham's getting a different mic. But you hear about changelings where you hear about babies or newborns that were taken out of the crib and replaced with a very ugly-looking fairy baby. And we'll get to that when we get to the seas. So we have Alistin, a water horse from the Isle of Man that can assume human form but will still have horse's ears. It's similar to the Scottish I hate these words, Ewage. And like its Scottish counterpart, it loves to take humans for a ride, only to carry them into the water and devour them. So now we have Alatir. In Russian folklore, Alatir is a magic stone. The father of all stones, a holy omphalos possessing healing properties. The stone is placed in the center of the Buyan Island. As a legend says, healing rivers flow from beneath Alatir, and on it stands the world tree. It could be oak, apple tree, or cypress. Okay, what's going on here? The stone is guarded by mythical monsters, Gegana bird and Garifuna, the snake. we still good. In spells and incantations, Alatir is mentioned together with the Bouillon Island. People believe that otherwise no spell or charm could be effective. Yeah, I'd say Willow's another good one. You know what? We need to do a show just on herbs, stones, trees, things of that nature. And I'm hearing an echo now.
Trees getting stoned.
Huh?
How's that sound? How's that sound?
Good. Sounds good.
Okay.
Other than now, I can hear an echo.
Oh, that's because I've got... Well, that'll take care of that echo. Hang on.
All right.
I don't have any headphones, so I'm having to listen to the speakers off to the side.
Oh, okay, I got you. So, yeah, you got feedback to the speakers like we did earlier. All right, next we have the Illyrion. The Illyrion is a bird like an eagle. It is lord over all the other birds. It is the color of fire. It's larger than an eagle, and its wings are as sharp as a razor. The only one pair in the world. When she is 60 years old, the female lays 2 eggs, which take 60 days to hatch. When the young are born, the parents, accompanied by a retinue of other birds, fly to the sea, plunge in, and drown. The other birds return to the nest to care for the young Illyrion until they are old enough to fly. This tale is told in the Bestiaire of Pierre de Beauvais. A similar tale is found in the letter of Prester John on the marvels of the East. And yeah, like I said, this tonight's show is barely scratching the surface. Cause like I said, I'm not even done with my research. There's I've got an encyclopedia of mythical beasts that I haven't even looked at yet. Now that if I match and see what's in here and what's not. The Phoenix, actually, we'll get to the Phoenix, Milo. Probably not tonight, but we will get to the Phoenix. We'll have a discussion about Phoenix as well. Yeah, we're getting there, Trippin'. It's just a matter of figuring out the studio and our technology and whatnot. Alfar is an old Scandinavian folklore, a term for a being that is half god, half dwarf. In later mythology, it degrades to a demon that only causes nightmares and disease. In Germany, it is pronounced an Alb. A reference to the word can be found in the Nibelungen saga, where the king of the dwarves is called Alberic. So now you have elves. In Old Norse folklore, the elves were the spirits of the dead who lived close together in hills and mountains. It was generally believed by inhabitants of farmsteads located in the vicinity of such mounds that the elves who lived there were their ancestors. Sacrifices were made to them in return for favors. It was also believed that the elves were the spirits of the deceased who still live in the house where they died. In later folklore, they became earth spirits. Now we have Alvin, creatures of the moon under whose light they dance and play. They are water fairies who live in ponds, lakes, and rivers, but the river Elbe is sacred to them, and in it they make their principal home. They cherish night-blooming plants and will harm any human who attempts to pick or destroy them. Fish are their only known enemies, and they prefer to live in water enclosures where there are none. You can join in anytime, Markham. So, they're also found in ponds in the Netherlands.
Trying to keep the echo down.
You sound good now.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using the same mic Dave uses. I found one on eBay really good for a good price. So, with a 2-year warranty and free shipping. I ordered it Friday, and it was on my doorstep when I left Sunday afternoon to come to work. Damn. I was not expecting that.
Okay, Trippin', the water one was Alvin. That was Creatures of the Moon. Where they and the River Elbe is sacred to them. They're also found in the Netherlands. Though they don't have wings, they can however
And there's
fly.
also there's a
The blue.
water entity called the green teeth. It was used
Oh
in a
God, yeah,
Terry
Jenny
Pratchett
Green.
novel. It actually does exist in folklore predating. It's one of those things that it looks like a weed, and you bend over to take a sip out of the stream, and you get hauled under.
Yeah,
There's a
Jenny
water
Green Teeth is famous in fairy folklore. She's actually on the list. We just haven't gotten to her yet. She made the first scrubbed list though. There's actually a lot of different water fairies that you'll see. And like I said before, a lot of them are actually you'll see through superstition of fishermen and boaters and whatnot. So Alvin can fly by being encased in bubbles and traveling in the winds. Their main home is the River Elbe, as it is sacred to them. Small fairies extremely light and sometimes shift into otters. Alvins are most active at night. Now we have Alvina. In the folklore of West Flanders, Alvina was the beautiful daughter of a king who, in consequences of her marriage, was cursed by her parents to wander about for all of eternity. An old ballad goes, Ik voel dat... Well, I'm not even going to go there. That's, I feel that I must go flying in the winds as long as the world stands and never more comfort find. Adieu, children, dear fruits. Adieu, husband, who art the cause. Despondent must forever sigh. The other side of the ballad was in a foreign language. It was said in West Flanders that when the wind loudly howls and whistles, Alvina is weeping. Now we have Alyosha Popovich. In Russian folklore, Alyosha Popovich is an epic hero, a mighty warrior, and a trickster, unlike Ilya Muromets and Dobrina Nikitich. Right? And other heroes who served Prince Vladimir of Kiev, protected borders of old Russia, and fought with various monsters. Alyosha won battles not by his physical superiority, but by insidious tricks. And as we've said before, the fairies are known to be tricksters. Some of them are. He was always ready to play mischievous pranks on his friends too. Once when Dobrina went far away, Alyosha came to Dobrina's wife and told her that her husband was dead, and that she should marry him. She rejected him, and afterwards Dobrina beat Alyosha to death. According to the legend, Alyosha was born under peals of thunder, and the next day he jumped into the saddle and went to see the world, to boast and to win. His main feat of arms was a victory over the monster Tugarin, also called the Worm Sun, who threatened to burn Alyosha by its fire and suffocate him with smoke. Alyosha won the battle and killed Tugarin. He then hacked Tugarin's body into pieces and scattered them all over the battlefield. His nickname means a priest's son, and he received it because his father was a priest. All right, and getting to a comment here. So Ron is saying when he lived in a forest in a fire ranger tower, he would see things at night look like fairies. So, did you see sparkles of light, or did you see orbs, or it'll take a second for Ron to answer, I know, but and getting to Robert real quick, tongue-twisting Russians, yeah. We'll get to them, but there is a lot of Russian fairies that we'll get to, and most of them you won't find too many of the Russian fairies friendly. So real quick, while we're waiting for Ron to answer, we have
not that many
spirit.
Friendly Russians.
No, I mean, but look at Russia. It's cold. That's why they drink vodka, so they can warm up. Yeah, okay. So Ron says what he saw in the woods looked like sparkles that were caught. He caught some neat pictures of sparkles, and they look like Tinkerbell. And that brings, I can't remember, you probably have it on your list, Markham, the little girl, Cottingham. The Cottingham pictures. And was that a hoax or was it real? Nobody really knows. Other than there was little girls who were taking pictures. This is back in the 1920s, I believe it was. But yeah, the Cottingham fairies were these little girls that supposedly took pictures of what looked like Tinkerbell. So, do they look like Tinkerbell? They could. And are you still with me, Markham?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah, I saw where you said you lost me. Making sure we're still good. So is a Thai spirit that sleeps on the chest. It is said that if someone has trouble breathing, a Fae sleeps on his chest. In Thai, Fae means ghost. So, as you can see, a lot of this is going to cross over. Whether it's some spirit activity is actually fairy, or what some call fairies are actually spirits. There's a lot of crossover, and that's why it really kills me when you hear all these paranormal groups that talk about, well, paranormal is only spirits. No, it's really not. It's all of them. Aliens are part of the paranormal. UFOs, Bigfoot, they're all part of the paranormal. And ideally, once we get our equipment that we're building up and running, we'll be able to prove a lot of that. So we have Amphisbaena. The Amphisbaena is a two-headed lizard or serpent. It has one head in the normal position and another at the end of its tail. It can therefore run in either direction. Its eyes shine like lamps. It has no fear of cold. The name Amphisbaena is now given to a legless lizard that can move either forward or backward, though it is a relatively modern use of the name. And Angiks, children of the living dead of Eskimo lore in hard times. Unwanted babies were taken out into the snow by tribal elders to die of exposure. Unless the tribe would move to a new hunting ground, they would often find themselves haunted by this small, miserable ghost. Okay, I can't remember if it's on my list or not, but oftentimes if you have dragonflies that hang around you, that is a fairy sign. Fairies are known to ride around on dragonflies. They're very protective of humans. I've got two different dragonfly stories. One I was stationed in Atlanta, in Georgia, and it's I was right next to a creek, and this was really my first dragonfly encounter, but it was awkward because this dragonfly out of the blue flew right in front of me and pushed me backwards. And just as I stepped back, a cottonmouth shot across the creek towards me. Now, had it not pushed me back, I probably would have been bit. So, yeah, my faith in dragonflies is part of the fairy, is enhanced actually more in Iraq when we were in Kuwait and we did some protective rituals over the convoy because we were about to, that morning, drive from Kuwait for 3 days into Balad, Iraq. Bear in mind, this is 2004, and we didn't have any body armor. Our trucks were actually armored by plywood, rubber mats, and sandbags. That was our armor. And So we did protective rites over our convoys, me and the other pagan troops that were with me. And I woke up the next morning and Sergeant Cooper, you got to come out here and check this out. I don't know what you did, but oh my God. I don't know how to explain it. Just come look. And I stepped out of my tent, and as far as the eye could see, there were thousands of dragonflies, all heading towards Iraq. Now, was it migration? It could have been. I prefer to choose the alternative that our protective right worked and the fairies were answering the call. And good night, Don. Sleep well. And thank you for listening in tonight. But, you know, fairies are known to be guardians. They're known to be very protective. They are transportation for fairies a lot of times. And I can say, honestly, after we did our protective right, not a shot was fired. Nobody got hurt. There was no IEDs that went off. Nothing. We made it in a 3-day convoy from Kuwait all the way to Balad, Iraq. So, I give the dragonflies, the fairies, and, well, Morgan, who is my deity, credit for that. So, Anjonis. Los Anjonis are typical fairies of Cantabria. There are small and nice females who sometimes appear to people like part human and part animal. Usually it's a bird or a fish, but it's not always 50-50. Good, willing, and peaceful, they can be found in the woods, near small streams, and that sort of quiet places. The Anku. Okay. So the Anku is a fairy version of the Grim Reaper. Sometimes he's portrayed as a benevolent, comforting figure. An old Irish proverb says, when Anku comes, he will not go away empty. Anku is found in Brittany, but is also part of Cornwall, Wales, and Irish mythology. Other known names are Death, the Grim Reaper, and Father Time, and Anku is part of all elements. So basically, by being a part of all elements, that would make him spirit. Because we believe in 5 elements, earth, air, fire, water, and spirit being the 5th, which encompasses all of them. So, indeed, Anku, considering he is seen as being all of them, would be a spirit. So, Anku represents death. He's a soul collector of passed on humans. No one alive has ever seen his dark face buried deep within his black robes, for only those who are about to die can lay eyes on his face. In Ireland, he is known to drive a black cart driven by 4 black horses. This is a fairy that should not be contacted. What do you think? They crack me up. Anthuzai, a race of fairy that takes up flower form to brave out the winter. And there's the answer to your question in when can you see fairies. Yeah, it depends on the element and what element they represent. Like plants, they hibernate in the winter. They are notorious tattletales and cause untold distress to their victims. The anthropophagi is a cannibal fairy. He has no head, but his eyes sit atop his shoulders and a mouth may be found in his torso. His lack of nose allows him to eat human flesh without gagging. Anthropophagi are found in England, even though the name of this fairy is of Greek origin, which means man-eating. The anthropophagi is a headless cannibal. He has no nose. His eyes rest on his shoulders. His mouth is at the center of his chest. Air is the element of this repulsive fairy, and it is not known how to find him. We really want to. It is believed that these are not fairies, but traces of a memory of a cannibalistic race, which migrated from northern Africa to Britain in the Dark Ages. So, ants. Ants are said to have these characteristics. They walk in order like soldiers. They carry grains in their mouths and an ant with no grain will not try to take the grain from one which has it. They break each grain in half to keep it from germinating when it rains, because if it does, the ant will starve in the winter. When it's time to harvest the grain, they go into the fields and climb up to the grain, where they distinguish wheat from barley by its smell and reject the barley because it is food for cattle. So some physiologous versions and other texts tell the gold-digging ants of Ethiopia, which are the size of dogs. The ants dig up gold from sand with their feet and guard it, chasing down and killing any who try to steal it. It is said that people safely steal the ants' gold by separating mares from their foals with a river between them. The mares carrying packs are driven to the side of the river inhabited by the ants. The ants, seeing the packs as a good place to hide their gold, fill them with the golden sand. When the mares swim back to their foals on the other side of the river, the ants cannot follow. Herodotus tells a similar story but places the gold-digging ants in India. The ants working together for the common good is to be taken as a lesson to men who should work in unity. Maybe Trump should read that. So apples. Real quick, apples are seen as fairy food, representing forgetfulness, rebellion, disloyalty, forbidden for mortals because it ties them indefinitely to the she, a favorite magic amongst hags. Arkansani are fairy pigs. On the Isle of Man, they're also known as Lucky Piggy. Fairy pigs are supposed to bring good luck if one is captured. Ash rays. It is known that ash rays cannot live on land and are completely nocturnal. If they are touched by sunlight, they will melt into a rainbow pool of water. Ash rays are water fairies from Scotland that are mistaken for sea ghosts, have white bodies and look like a 20-year-old human, both male and female. Nocturnal fairies, if sunlight hits them, they'll melt into rainbow color upon the water. They're obviously nocturnal. And it is said that you should approach them with caution. It's not known if they'll harm humans. Now you have asp. The asp is a serpent that avoids the enchantment of music by pressing one ear against the ground and plugging the other ear of his tail. In some versions, the asp guards a tree that drips balm. To get the balm, men must first put the asp to sleep by playing or singing to it. Another version holds that the asp has a precious stone called a carbuncle in its head, and the enchanter must say certain words to the asp to obtain the stone. We now got the asperus, usually female, also known as sky dancers. They bless humans at important stages in their lives. They're often seen at weddings. They live in fig trees and sometimes appear to scholars or scientists. Seduce and exhaust them. Make sure they don't venture into areas that the spirit world deems unfit. The Azrai are small and delicate female fairies who melt away into a pool of water when captured or exposed to sunlight. The Atocrop looks like a small serpent with arms and legs who walk upright. They are very malevolent. Atocrop are earth fairies found in Saxony. These evil fairies look like serpents with arms and legs and are usually active at night. They may have come into the fairy lore of Saxony by the sly waves of poisonous snakes. Atocrop can be found near rivers and woodlands. Now we have the Og Iski. These are the Irish versions of the each Uig. Avalon is a mythological island in the Arthurian legends. The place where Excalibur was forged and given to King Arthur. Also the place where King Arthur was taken after being wounded in a battle. Morgan Le Fay and Vivian are said to have dwelled in the Isle of Avalon. That's also where Lady of the Lake is. And she is part of the faerie. So Odd Goggy, a type of bogey. No, I don't like bogies. He haunts forests and orchards. He kidnaps children. Wise children will stay away from the orchards when unsupervised, lest Odd Goggy get them. Alright, we got bellybogs. Actually, I believe, Robert, they can change either or. Robert's question was, do they like to change to water, or they reform afterwards, or they die after falling apart? They can change either or. They can come back to their fairy form after turning to water. That's just how they hide. The ballybogs are mud-covered creatures of very small size. Their bodies are completely round, with their heads rising from their bodies without a neck. Their arms and legs are long and spindly, which look too thin and weak to support their weight. They speak no language and grunt and slobber instead of speaking. Ballybog is translated as peat fairy. Ancient Irish fairies that protect the peat bogs of Ireland. They are ugly in appearance. Their bodies are round. Actually, if you want to see a picture of a ballybog, do they have souls? That's a good question, Ron. I would say no, because, all right, Markham. Markham's going to work. So, do they have souls? No, because they basically reside in their own realm. They have their own world. So, I would say no. Because fairies, if you look through folklore, fairies actually work with deities. They wouldn't have to have a soul. They work with deities. I don't know. That'd be a hard one to explain. But honestly, I don't think they have souls, because they actually work with deities themselves a lot of times. Now we get to my favorite, the banshee. Banshee is originally in Irish literature. The banshee actually means woman of the fairy mound, or just simply as fairy woman. Ban or bean, because in Celtic, oh God, what's it called? Gaelic. Yeah, in Gaelic, ban, bean is pronounced ban. So when you see beanshee, it's actually banshee. The various spelling or pronunciation of the word for fairy mound referred to the otherworldly realm, which the Irish refer to as she. Sid, S-I-D-H, or S-I-D-H-E. Oh, excuse me. It basically means the same thing. The word banshee may have originated from East Munster, and there are many ways it can be spelled. In Irish Gaelic, it could be spelled as banshee, or B-A-N-S-H-I-E, bean, B-E-A-N-S-I-D-H-E, and ben, S-I-D-E. The Scottish words are ban sith, bean shith, and bean sith. The Manx form is benshee. It was only in later Irish and Scottish Gaelic folklore traditions that banshee came to mean a female wraith or spirit, whose keening presages the death of a person. Basically, the only time you heard a banshee was wailing was outside your window, and that's someone's going to die. She only foretells the pending death of a person. Unlike the Breton fairy woman Corrigan, the banshee doesn't cause a person's death with their power or curse. Related to the banshee is a washer or washerwoman at the ford, known in Scottish folklore as Beanshee. According to Irish poet Yeats, banshee was sometimes accompanied by the Dullahan, a headless fairy coachman. It is also sometimes believed that on these occasions the banshee is also headless. It has been reported in 1807 that one headless banshee had frightened to death 2 sentries stationed at James Park. So the banshee was sometimes seen as a young fair woman, especially in Irish texts, while other sources from Scottish tradition described her as an old hag. Her description varied. Yes, a wraith is a lost soul. Depends on which tradition you look at. It depends on which definition. Some say the wraith is someone that died and came back to seek revenge. Again, do they have a lost soul? I don't know. If you came back to exact revenge on the person that killed you, as in a violent death or whatever, I would say you had a soul, because you go back after you exacted your revenge. So her description varied. What is common in both traditions was that Banshee had long, unbound hair and dressed in white, though sometimes she was seen dressed in a gray cloak over a green dress. Oh God, Andy. We haven't even scratched. We're just now getting into the bees, and this isn't even all of them. There's thousands of fairies based on tradition. Yeah, Ron, and Ron's saying he thought he heard me say wraith, and yeah, I would say again because in a lot of legends, you know, a wraith is one that exacts revenge over a violent death. So I would say he had to have a soul if he goes back after he exacts revenge, you know. So the Banshee, another common tradition is that she can be heard weeping or wailing. This sounds like the keening of mourners, and because of continuous weeping, her eyes were red in color. In 1987, Patricia Lysate claimed that the closest anticipation of the Banshee found in Old Irish mythology was Fedelm, the seeress in the Tainbow. Ulster cycle. There we go. Ulster cycle. There's a wonderful description of her looks, how she is dressed, and her gifts in divination. However, I dubious of Lysate's claim. Fedelm, she wasn't a wraith like the Banshee, but trained in Alba. Yes, dogs would definitely sense, because dogs can see in the third and fourth dimensions. So, dogs would be able to sense, obviously, spirit, definitely fairy. Bigfoot would be a curious one. I'd be curious if a dog could sense big. I would think they could. But, honestly, Bigfoot being interdimensional at will, that's a good experiment to try out. Actually, yeah, never mind.